Hello fam, welcome back to the channel. This is Precious Styling. To all my returning subscribers, thank you for always stopping by my channel, and to my new viewers, you're welcome to the family. So in today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this Shein inspired top using only 1 yard of fabric, and this top can be styled in multiple ways. With that being said, let's get creative. I have my pattern here on fold, and I would first off mark the shoulder line. That top part there is the shoulder, okay, and that is where all our vertical measurements would begin from. So first things first, I'm going to measure downwards to my chest line. I'm also going to measure downwards to my bust line. I would also measure downwards to my waistline, and I would also measure down to the hem of the blouse. Now the hem of the blouse is going to be 23 inches. I'll be imputing the same vertical measurement on the other side of the pattern paper so that I can rule a line to connect both points. These markings will help you identify the lines better. This is chest line, this is bust line, this is waistline, and that is hemline. I would go ahead and mark my neck width. So the neck width I'll be using from down would be 3 inches on fold, okay? And I would go ahead and mark my shoulder span, which is 14 inches. 14 inches divided by 2 is 7 inches. I'll be opening up my pattern paper to modify the neck width that we already marked at 3 inches, because the neckline will have an asymmetry. From that 3 inches I marked, I'm going to be going out by 4 inches. That means if the neckline before on fold was 3 inches, it means that the actual neckline is 6 inches. And if I add 4 on one side of the pattern paper, it means that the neckline I am having would be 10 inches. I don't know if you get that calculation. Anyway, that's what it is. So I added 4 inches to that, making 10 inches. And I'm going to be finding the midpoint of that 10 inches, which is 5 inches. So I'm going to mark that 5 inches as the midpoint of the neckline, because I am going to be drawing out a neckline from that 5 inches mark on fold. I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll fold the paper at that point to draw out my neckline. And so I'll cut out the neckline and open up the pattern paper so you can see what the pattern paper looks like. I'll begin imputing my circumferential body measurement, and first up is my bust circumference. So I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll be adding 3 inches allowance to that. Don't bother about the 3 inches that I'm adding. You are going to know why I added it at the end of the day. Next is my waist circumference. So I'm marking my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'm also adding 3 inches allowance to that. And finally, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll also add 3 inches allowance to that. And I'll be connecting these 3 lines. I'll be extending the bust line because we're going to be curving out that sharp angle. At the hemline, I'm going to be going up by 1.5 inches in order to give the sharp angle of the hemline some curve. At the waistline, I'm going to go up by 1 inch on both sides because I'll be rolling a line. And from that line that I rolled, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. From the point I came down by 2 inches, I'm going to be going down again by 2 inches, and I would also be going down by 2 inches. So I'm going to be rolling these 3 lines, and these lines will represent the areas I'm going to make my slashes. So as it is, I'm going to have /1, /2, and /3, and I'll cut out my pattern. So guys, if you want your sleeve to be longer, you can just extend the shoulder point across till you get your desired length of sleeve, okay, maybe up to 18 inches or more. So you can just do that, and the area by the side would be my sleeve opening. At this point, if you want one part of the shoulder to be armless, you can go ahead and draft out a normal armhole for one part and then leave the sleeve on the other part, just like the style inspiration. But I want to have sleeves on both parts of my shoulders. Let's go and transfer our pattern to our fabric. So fam, this is the fabric I'll be using to make the top. The fabric has a little bit of stretch to it, but it's not so stretchy. This is thick crepe, and so I'll be cutting the pattern on the fabric. I folded my 1 yard of fabric into 4, as you can see, and I'm going to place my pattern paper on the fabric. So once I do that, I'm going to cut through the slashes we already made on the pattern, and I'm going to be spacing the slashes by 2 inches. I would just space the slashes by 2 inches, and then I'm going to pin the slashes down so it stays in place. And once this is done, I'll be cutting out the pattern on the fabric. After cutting out your fabric, ensure you make notches to the points you modified the pattern at, at the slashes, in between the slashes. Ensure you make notches there, because this will guide you in the next step that would follow. I would open up my fabric and I'll cut out the neckline using my pattern paper as a guide. So guys, I figured out that the neckline may be too narrow for my shoulders, thereby not really giving it the asymmetrical effect. So I decided to add 2.5 inches addition to the neckline, and I'll just retrace the neckline and cut it out. So now that this is done, we're going to be placing back our pattern on the fabric, and we're going to be using this pattern as a guide in order to make our pleats. Okay, and that is why I told you earlier to make notches that will guide you. So right now I'll begin pleating the spaces in between the slashes we made. Okay, I'm just going to be pleating the area in between the slashes. So I'll pick the lower end, drag it upwards. Okay, I'll pick the lower end, drag it upwards, and then I'm going to pin it in place, thereby creating my pleats. So I'll just be using this pattern as a guide, so just watch how I do this. After doing this for the front, I'm also going to do this for the back as well, and this is how the front and the back look like. You can see the pins and all. I'll be flipping the fabric to the wrong side because I'm going to be stitching the sides of the fabric with the 3 inches allowance we gave when we're drafting the pattern. Okay, so I'm going to stitch the allowance up by 3 inches, and I'm also going to hem the neckline of the blouse. So I'm back. I have hemmed the neckline, as you can see, and I also hemmed the sleeve of the top. I also hemmed the bottom of the top as well, and as you can see, I have stitched up the 3 inches allowance that we gave earlier. You can see what I did. I have run a stitch from the sleeve up to the hem of the top. So right now I am going to be taking out the pins at the side, because I will be opening up the side seam and pinning down the side seam open. Okay, now that the side seam is exposed, I'm going to be taking note of where I'm going to run my stitch of 1 inch from the hem of the top to about 9 inches upwards. So I'm going to run a stitch of about 9 inches from the hem. So basically I'm creating a channel of 1 inch on both sides of the side seam, because that is where I'll be passing the loop. To create my loops, I cut out a thin strip of fabric of about 18 inches long and 1.75 inches wide. The strips of fabric you will need would be a total of 4, and I have hemmed the strips of fabric. So guys, backstage I stitched 2 lines on both sides of the side seam, and these lines are about 1 inch wide, and this already creates my channels. So I stopped somewhere close to the armpits, and that is where I'll be passing my loops through. So I did this on the other side as well, as you can see. I will take my loop and I'm going to pass a safety pin through one end of the loop, and I'm going to be inserting this safety pin through the channels. So by doing that, I'm going to successfully pass my loops through the channels. Once we've gotten to where we want the loop to stop, I'm going to bring out the head of the safety pin from one of the openings, and I'm going to pin that top in place so that the loop does not fall through the channel. I would go ahead and insert all 4 loops into their respective channels. As you can see, I have inserted all the loops in their respective channels, and I just pinned the top there so that the loops stay in place. And I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch on top of that area. Okay, I'll just stitch on top of that area there to secure the loops finally. I have finished securing the loops, and this is what I have. At this point, we can say we are done with the top. This is how it looks like. This is how the loops look like. You can drag it upwards if you want the length of the dress shorter, and you can leave it the way it is if you want it longer. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please do not go away without giving the video a like. It is free, guys. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, what are you waiting for? Click on the subscribe button that you see now so you can join this family and so you wouldn't miss out on future tutorials I post. Thank you once again for being here. I'll be seeing you in my next tutorial. Till I see you. Bye for now.